particularly pretty. This whole sloping design, I know it's meant to look gracious, but for me personally, I just can't shake the feeling that it's like a skin that I've not applied properly. And for a smartphone whose entire strapline is awake in colour, it's just a bit dull. Like, what happened to the gradient finishes they used to have? Or even last year's vegan leather one. I thought that was great. But at the same time, Oppo's managed to make the most comfortable phone I've ever held. And I've held a lot of smartphones. It's this really delicate balance of being slightly thinner and lighter than you'd expect, but with still enough heft to feel luxurious. It's got this smooth matte finish with an almost shocking resistance to fingerprints. Just look at it, it just stays clean. And the fact that the entire back is just one continuous, uninterrupted sheet of glass means that there's practically no risk of your fingers bumping into anything, at least when you're holding the phone upright. You get the idea. This is the least jabby experience I've had in a long time, which is quite refreshing coming from an iPhone 12 Pro Max, because this phone by comparison feels like trying to hold a shuriken. Okay, design aside though, this was a really tough device for me to review. Normally after I've used a phone for a few days, a narrative just kind of hits me. Some sort of high-level one-sentence summary that I can leave you with. But I don't here. The Find X3 Pro is a complicated smartphone, a bizarre combination of delights and disappointments, of things so good that I wanted to scream about them, but then other things that I just couldn't help but be let down by. Like the cameras of the phone. They seem like a dream come true. It's using a high-end 50-megapixel main sensor, and this in itself feels pretty flagship in terms of detail and dynamic range. And because it captures so fast, it's got an impressive resistance to blurring, like here versus a Galaxy S21 Ultra. But what's really interesting is that we've got two of these sensors. This is the first smartphone that I've ever seen that also uses the exact same flagship-grade main sensor for its ultra-wide camera too. So, in effect, we've got two main cameras. That's such a cool idea. I love taking ultra-wide photos. There are so many situations it's useful in. And so the idea that I can now do that and not feel like I'm compromising on quality is enough to make me internally squeal with delight. And this feels like a pretty good opportunity to say that a sub to the channel would be radical. I'll squeal even more. But it gets better. This third one is a micro lens camera. Think macro, only to the extreme, and actually done well. You can get so close to objects that it feels wrong. So close that you can easily see the pixel arrangement of a retina display. So close that you can see every individual thread in a piece of clothing. This is true macro. And because when you get this close to objects, you're kind of obscuring a lot of the natural light, this camera has its own light. Which, when I saw it for the first time, is one of those moments where I could feel this smile creeping across my face, thinking, yeah, that's pretty cool. It is only 3 megapixel, but it's just enough clarity that you could use these photos on social media and it wouldn't really look like anything's off. And they've managed to do all of this and still fit in an optical zoom camera. So, here you go, Oppo. Take my money. Except, this is where it gets a little complex, because yes, this is a good set of cameras, but it's not really what I thought it would be. So, for starters, this whole idea of having two main sensors, I'm not actually convinced it makes a difference. Yes, you can switch between the main and ultra-wide camera, and there's no weird color shifting. But if you really compare the end ultra-wide shots to the Samsung's, which makes no extraordinary claims about its ultra-wide camera, it's really a personal preference which one you like. Oppo goes for a bit of extra sharpness, Samsung goes for a bit of extra smoothness, but I wouldn't say either is really winning. And trust me, I wanted to believe that this would take better ultra-wide photos, but I just don't see it. And it's a real shame because you can tell that Oppo's using a higher quality sensor. Like if you go and record ultra-wide video in super low light, it is cleaner, it is getting in more light. But as soon as you start taking photos, which are more reliant on software processing, Samsung makes up for that hardware deficit without actually even needing high-end hardware. And then there's this zoom camera. Weirdly, I was told it was 3 times optical zoom, but it's looking an awful lot like 2 times to me. Either way though, it's completely minced by Samsung, but also even Oppo's own last flagship, the Find X2 Pro. And even the front camera is a little hit and miss. It can be great, but the dynamic range completely tanks whenever you try portrait mode shots. It really makes you realize just how good the competition has become. And to be clear, the fact that in most cases this is trading blows with the S21 Ultra is a compliment. I'm not saying that this is a bad set of cameras, it's just that the things I was expecting to be blown away by I wasn't. And the thing I thought would be a useless gimmick, this microscope, was actually my favourite feature. Also, I should probably mention that Oppo's built-in photo editor is probably the best I've ever used. Very fast, loads of options. And this leads me on to the main selling point of the Find X3 Pro. Awaken colour. This is what you'll see plastered across all the marketing material, and their pitch is basically this. Other flagships can display life in 16.7 million colours. Our phone can do 1 billion. And what they mean by this, if we take away the marketing, is that this is a 10-bit smartphone. To put it simply, every pixel of 10-bit colour basically contains more information than a normal 8-bit one would. And so you could kind of think of it as a higher quality pixel. We shoot these videos in 10-bit because this extra information in those pixels gives us flexibility. It allows us to turn footage that comes out like this into smooth, punchy footage that looks like this. The only problem though with 10-bit is that it's not really an industry standard yet. There's tons of programs and devices that just will not support it. And so what's impressive about this is that we've got a phone here that can not just capture in 10-bit color, but can store and read these 10-bit files seamlessly, all while giving you a screen that can show that 10-bit content in its full 10-bit glory. But all that said, I wouldn't be surprised if 98% of users of this phone didn't even realize that was happening. The 10-bit photos look identical to the 8-bit ones straight out the camera, and even when I try to use an editor to exaggerate the differences, it's really not that obvious in this case, unless you're going to try and shoot in a flat color profile, in which case you need all the flexibility. And I guess there's no better evidence of this than the fact that on this phone, 10-bit is turned off by default. Don't get me wrong, it is still great to have that option, but it's just, I don't remember the last time I saw a smartphone get launched whose headline feature was turned off out the box. And that brings me to this display, which is an embodiment of this entire sentiment. Because on one hand, it is a technical marvel. Quad HD plus resolution, 1 billion colours, 120 Hz dynamic refresh rate, HDR10 plus, up to 1300 nits of brightness. I could keep going, but at the same time, the general consensus I got from people was that it looks good. Not amazing, not mind-blowing, but good. And I think the reason for that is that we've kind of seen this before. The OnePlus 8, the Oppo Reno 4 Pro, the Vivo X50. Everything from the dimensions of this screen, to the subtle curve, to the hole punch cutout in the corner, to the general bezels around the sides. It feels like deja vu. Yes, it is technically better in almost every sense, but it doesn't feel distinctly different. It's cutting edge, sitting in the canvas of mid-range. And it's just weird that Oppo's own Find X from 3 years ago actually had a more seamless display. It's functional, it's just nothing new. I do like Oppo's software though. Not everything about it. I think the home screens and some of the icons look very 2016 in design, but it's very polished. You can tell they put a lot of work into refining the transitions and the animations to make sure they work well with that 120 Hz display. Plus, it's hugely customizable, and the menus are both pretty and functional. Like, it's so quick to change wallpapers here that it makes Samsung and Apple solutions look cumbersome. And it is, just all round, a well-spec'd, fast phone. The Snapdragon 888 chipset, 12 gigs of fast RAM, 56 gigs of fast storage, which is double the industry standard. You get a 4,500 mAh battery, you get wireless charging, you get an IP6 age rating. So, hopefully you're starting to see why this was such a tough phone for me to review. Because it is brimming with interesting features, good ideas, and some genuinely groundbreaking innovation. But it's just, for each thing it does well, there is a slightly different asterisk next to it. And as a result, I'm not really sure who it's for. It's £1,099 here in the UK, so it is priced like an Ultra phone. And while it does have impressive specs, for me, it is outdone by the S21 Ultra in just about every important category. Overall camera performance, battery life, audio, and display. The Oppo does have merit. It's packing that same performance into a much more ergonomic shell, and that microscope camera is how to do a feature properly, but it just feels a bit lost in the middle. If you wanted Pro, the S21 Ultra is definitely more Pro. And if you just wanted a slim, fast, high-end phone, then to be honest, you could get away with the S20 FE for half the price. Or wait and see what OnePlus has coming, because if last year was anything to go by, then they might be about to drop a phone that is about the same as this, but cheaper. Do you remember that video I made about LG smartphones? Where I said that one of the reasons that LG didn't stick in people's minds was because they never sent a consistent message. Each phone just felt like an assortment of whatever features seemed cool at the time. This gave me a very similar feeling. Like, if you asked me what it meant to own a Find X series device, I couldn't really tell you. In 2018, Oppo announced the first Find X, and they said, look at our stunning gradient finish, look at our beautiful seamless display, no notches, no distractions, it's beautiful. Yet, in 2021, we have a completely different looking, very plain phone, with a hole punch on the front. Last year's Find X2 sold us on the idea that zoom was really important on a phone, and that vegan leather and ceramic finishes were the way to go. But then, this time they were just like, forget that, it's all about microscopes, and glass. Now, this isn't really a criticism of the Find X3 in particular, but I just think the fact that I could lay down all three Find X phones, and the only apparent thing in common between them is the logo, is detrimental to the brand itself. How can someone build an association with what Oppo flagships are all about if they're all about different things? And the implication of that is that as I've been using this phone, I kind of feel like I'm beta testing features. That instead of doing a few things exceptionally well and pushing them continually forward every generation to become a leader at them, like zoom or displays or even finishes, this constant change in direction gives the impression that Oppo just tries things, sees what the reaction is, and then drops them. Sometimes killing features that people actually liked. Now, the sponsor of this video is a company called Morning Brew, and it's probably not what you expect. It's not an app or a service or any kind of paid subscription. It's an email newsletter. So here's the idea. You pop your email address into their site, and then once per morning, Monday to Saturday, they send you a 5-minute summary on everything important in business and tech. And I like the ideology behind it. Because it's being sent to you, it's a very easy way of substituting checking Instagram first thing in the morning to learning something that you can actually talk about with people. So this morning it actually had a section about Twitter super followers, how Twitter is going to let people charge their followers to see some of their content. And the idea is that if creators can actually make money from Twitter, then they might actually put some effort in and create some decent quality content, which might draw more people to Twitter as a platform. It's an interesting topic. Anyways, check the link down below to sign up. It's free, it takes less than 15 seconds, and it's a good way of staying on top of things. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Что ж, pretty good. Сейчас, как это? Наоборот, да, наоборот. Вот наоборот, наоборот. Да, наоборот.
Фортифлор. Сила живых палеонтиков для здоровья.
Наоборот, на, наоборот, да. наоборот. Наоборот. Ну не надо играть туда, да. Наоборот. Да, наоборот. Да. Вот это было. Ну наоборот, тогда никто не смотрит. Да, наоборот. Да. Наоборот. Наоборот, ну надо, да, это видно. Наоборот. Вот это надо. Нонсенс. Да ну вот, наоборот. Наоборот. Ну вот это и есть. Да ладно, да нет, наоборот. Давайте сюда. Ну вот это есть. Народу. Так нет, надо вот это я говорю тебе различие. Ну нет, да наоборот. Вот это. Да, да. Ну наоборот. Нет, наоборот. Да наоборот. Да наоборот. Ну ладно. Ну, по своему. Да, ну нет. Да, ну да, это нет. Да, вот это. Да, да. Ну нет, ты писать хотел в себе тут. Себе тут, ну не. Ну нет. Да наоборот. Ну это значит ты играл здесь, да, нет, да. Да нет, ну надо, да. Да, интересно. А, ну, наоборот, ну нет, ну вот наоборот, значит, так и надо играть, ну значит не надо играть. Ну вот наоборот, значит. Надо плотно играть, да. Нормально, играй, нормально играй там, да. Так не наоборот ли, наоборот, да наоборот ли, да наоборот, да нет, нет, наоборот, да наоборот, нет, да наоборот, а, ну да. Что ты мчишься, лечить, да наоборот, да, да. Только ты умеешь так говорить, что да, тут ладно. Да, нет, не играю, просто нет. А тебе так говорит, вот, наоборот, да. Надо плавно играть, плавно, да. Ну вот наоборот только, да. Ну вот это и есть тем самым, да. Ну вот это, да. Да нет. Да наоборот. Надо плотное. Ну вот это. Ну черных нет, на себе говорит.